for me.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. It's the 12th anniversary of the attacks on America of September 11th, 2001. I'm sure you didn't need to hear me say that to know that. I'm sure everybody remembers that. And if you're old enough, I'm sure you remember the day very clearly. And, you know, there are so many things throughout history that throw us into a place where we look like we have to have a war, have to fight. I mean, look at this thing happening in Syria right now. And there's so many debates about these things. And then you become skeptical and cynical. You say, are you sure this is real? Not that I don't think that the poisoning of the people, by the way, was real. But is there an ulterior motive? Aren't there people who are being killed unfairly in other countries that we just turn our faces against or turn away from? David Leroy is an historical philosopher. He's been looking at this way deeper than I ever will. He's also a religious researcher and an author. His book is called The Siren of Paris. More fell than just Paris to the Nazis. And he's on the phone to talk to us about the way we responded to September 11th, the way we respond to pretty much all things, including what's happening in Syria right now. And my question is, will we ever really become civilized? I feel like, we like to consider ourselves civilized. I feel like we can't really declare that we're civilized until the day that we can look around the world and say, you know what? There's not a war going on at all today.
Yeah.
David Leroy, good morning. Thank you for being with us today.
Good morning. Thank you, Larry.
And where are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Carmichael, California, in Sacramento area.
Well, thank you for getting up early to be with us, as a matter of fact. Yeah, you look at the news, and I guess everybody says, oh, my goodness, is this going to be another war? I don't think there's a time when there isn't a war. Do you think we'll ever, as a philosopher, do you feel like we'll ever get away from that?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have a solution for war because I don't have a solution for crazy, stupid people getting to power and doing really dangerous things.
Right.
And this is the history. This is our history. If you look at war just in Europe, the other night I was looking at Wikipedia to see the history of war in Europe, and there was constant conflict all the way from the Franco-Prussian War in the 1870s up to World War I, all the way through World War I up through World War II. A lot of minor conflicts that you never hear about or forget about. And a lot of it I'd used that as research when I was writing my book, The Siren of Paris, because I was trying to understand, for the characters of the time set there in World War II, what would their perspective be? What would their point of view be about war? And
right.
Most people get exhausted. They just don't want to.
Really?
They get sensitized to it.
Can I ask you a question? I'm loving this, by the way. I mean, just looking at your credentials, you are the kind of guy I'd love to ask these kinds of questions of. So thank you for indulging me, and I'm sure our listeners.
It's going to be a morning.
I know. But let me ask you this. A lot of times we say, okay, in the John Lennon song Imagine no religion, and imagine, in other words, religion is the reason for war. Let's imagine there is none. Well, let's do that for a second. Let's say there's no religion anymore. Nobody worships anything, okay? Mm-hmm. And we're all on the same page with that, every single person on the planet. There's still going to be, as you said, crazies. And I've often thought that what the role religion plays in war, and perhaps I'm wrong in some ways, maybe in every way, but the role is that it is used as a way to manipulate us. In other words, they make the powers that be, make me the peon, believe that everybody who happens to be religion X, while I'm religion Y, they're bad. The X's are bad. Mm-hmm. The Y's are good. The X's are bad. And so I think, yeah, man, we got to kill all of them. And they tell them the same thing. All the Y's are bad. They got to kill all of us. And I think sometimes religion is used just as a way to leverage the peons to fight the wars so that the powers that want to be powers will have their little, I'm the winner, I'm the king of the world moment.
Yeah.
So the question is...
No, I don't know if there's a question. I just what? Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there isn't a question there. But maybe, do you think that's what it is? Or do you think it really is religion that causes war?
Wars are caused for several different reasons. Wars can be caused due to trade conflicts between two parties. They can be cause for strategic, there's a strategic need for or a disagreement about some land. They also can be caused because of aggression. It's defense. Wars are for defending reasons. Any of those conflicts, when you add the layer of religion, which is adding in a layer of highly charged emotional beliefs, then you really accelerate the conflict. It's like throwing gasoline on a fire, or even not even gasoline, I would say white gas on a fire that's just going to explode. In the Siren of Paris in World War II, the Germans were extremely good at manipulating the French emotionally into believing things about Jews, believing things about foreigners.
Yeah.
They were very good at propaganda, broadcasting propaganda across the radio.
Right.
And they really projected themselves as saviors to the French, and many of the French bought into it because it was emotionally appealing to them. So that is an unfortunate reality of war, and we're very susceptible to that emotional manipulation.
Is the book a novel?
Yes.
Oh, it is a novel. Okay, but
it is a novel, but it's based upon factual events and people set in Paris in 1939 through 1945.
Okay, is Paris a microcosm of what was going on in the world at that time?
Well, I'm sure Paris would disagree. Paris, what was going on in Paris in 1939, the war broke out, and what many people don't know is that there weren't just a few Americans over there, a few eccentric birds. There was about 30,000 Americans. And shortly after the war broke out, within days, a passenger liner called the SS Athenia was struck and hit.
Right.
It sank, killing several people, and all passenger ships stopped. So if you're in Europe and you're in Paris and you're on business or vacation, guess what? You're stuck. And many people ended up being stuck for over a year and were emergency evacuated on passenger ships brought over by the FDR and the American government. Some of them were even stopped by U-boats, possibly sunk. We're going to be sunk, but then we're not because they recognized they were American ships. It's a really terrifying situation for many Americans.
Was there a particular reason why that tiny little element of that part of our history was something you wanted to focus on, and in fact where you set your story?
There is. Well, at first I wanted to write a story just about the French Resistance, but as I was doing more research, I found all these other stories that had been untold.
Uh-huh.
And most of the World War II novels are, they're set right in the action, so to speak.
Right.
And they don't tell this other story about the war. And they certainly don't usually typify, the heroics of civilians. And so this is primarily a civilian story of civilians surviving during the war and doing what they need to do. So I felt like it was an untold story, and that's why I decided to craft it that way.
Ah, okay. Our guest is David Leroy, and his book is called The Siren of Paris, and it is a novel, but I'm so fascinated with the background of David because he's woven into the story the understanding he has of our history from a historical perspective, a philosophical perspective, a religious perspective, and all that comes together for the book. Is this a first novel for you?
Yeah, this is my first novel.
And was it fun?
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah?
Absolutely. I learned a lot from the process. I enjoyed it, and I'm working on a second right now.
It seems to me that sometimes some people in America become extremely complacent because we're so used to being free, to having things the way we want them to be, that when wars are beginning to happen, like Syria or remembering 9/11, the people just want to go into their own little shell in their own little world and then not remember even the atrocities of World War II. Some people deny that the Holocaust existed.
Yeah.
Yeah, Robin, you've hit upon an important point, which is escapism. It's natural for people to want to escape terrible things, and so today people have multiple ways to escape. We're not just geographically isolated from the rest of the world. America has actually got two major oceans on each side, and we're kind of geographically isolated. But American public is deeply connected to their smartphones and their tablet computers, and through those devices they can escape to a virtual world. that offers games, cat videos, you name it, and
Cat videos.
You guys love those cat costumes.
and
don't you?
war is not fun. Conflicts are not fun. It's kind of a downer. In the Siren of Paris, my characters were constantly trying to escape the reality of the war through going to concerts, through movies, horse races, dinner parties, anything that they could do to escape it, and they were right there in the middle of it. So it's kind of natural for people to do that, but it's unfortunate that because often what happens is then they get surprised.
Whenever you look up things about the liberation of France, let's say specifically, since we're talking about Paris, you often will see photographs of children. It's almost like that's symbolic of freedom, is children running in the streets. And I know that part of our conversation today was to focus on the innocents, the women and the children. Not that some men aren't also innocent, but when you look at what life is like when we are liberated, it is best represented by a street full of children just running with freedom just oozing out of them, and the opposite of that is the opposite of that. The situation in Syria right now, I think the thing that scares me is that if we indeed shoot some missiles, we're going to haphazardly do it, and there will be a child at the end of that missile, or a woman at the end of that missile, and those who really love strategy of war say, well, that's just the way war is done. And I've often felt like, why? Why does it have to be? I mean, aren't we at the point now where we can find that, hey, here's the bad guy, let's go get him?
That's right.
I don't understand the whole reason why at this point in our technology, you can have a 3D printer that can make a hammer right here in this studio.
Yeah.
And you can pinpoint a landing on the moon or on an asteroid, but you have to blow up children and women. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, the problem is that those children and women have no place to go. So if you put yourself into Damascus or one of those cities, that $10 house is all they got in the world.
Yeah.
And when the conflict breaks out, many times they're related to rebels, or they may be related to people in the military, and they don't want to move away very far. They can't evacuate. So they're caught in between. And, when I look at the pictures of Damascus or some of the cities over there in Syria, you see out these bombed out buildings, they're filled with women and children someplace in there. They're hiding, they're, in a shelter someplace in there, and they're afraid to come out, or they're waiting to come out to get water or food. And they have no place else to go. They can't get on an airliner and come to New York.
Right. Did you ever see the movie Life is Beautiful? It was an Italian movie.
Oh, I've heard of it. Yes, I have seen part of it.
And it's just such a beautiful story about a father who shields his son, and they're both Jewish. And anyway, I don't want to give away the story, but it's just such a beautiful story, and it really does show how the children get thrown into this whole thing.
Yeah.
Right, and that story was set in Dora Mitterrand concentration camp, where they built the V-2 rockets.
Good for you. Wow, I couldn't have even told you that. I was just so touched by the story and proud at the end, because the American tanks came in, and it was made by an Italian filmmaker. So in a way, I mean, our whole thing of patting ourselves on the back isn't always the case. Sometimes they do say thank you. I think that was a thank you.
Yes,
but,
absolutely.
You also point out about our government hiding atrocities, or Winston Churchill hiding atrocities during the war so as not to ruin the morale of the soldiers.
Yeah, a big part of the Siren of Paris deals with the sinking of the RMS Lancastria. And which was shocking to me, because I knew a lot about ocean liners before I wrote this book, and I never knew about this ship. And I never knew that this was the single largest loss of life on a British ocean liner. I had no idea. And when the RMS Lancastria sank, it was heavily overcrowded. It got bombed on June 17th, 1940 at St. Nazaire, trying to evacuate refugees and soldiers. And about 6,000 people died on that ship.
Wow.
It was overloaded. It had about 9,000 people on board.
My goodness.
Yeah, and it sank within 20 minutes, flipped over on its side, and the British government completely covered it up. It was not allowed to be reported on the D system in England. It was not reported at all during the war. The New York Times actually broke the story because some photographs leaked out from Europe about it.
My goodness, yeah.
And then after the war, even today, it's ignored. It's not recognized as a war grape by the British. There's a lot of stiffer upper lip behavior still going on, that just to ignore it. Or the reason is because Churchill sealed the records for 100 years, and nobody wants to touch it.
Oh my gosh!
So
Wow, so we got about 35 more.
Yeah,
How many more? The Siren of Paris. Explain the word siren. Is it the call
The
of
siren?
the temptation?
A siren is a mythic creature that calls you to your destruction.
Okay, and the siren in your story is?
Well, it's a couple things, but it's Marie Bonnet. She becomes a collaborator.
Has to be
Her
a woman.
favorite hobby is hunting after resistance fighters on Paris.
And she uses her wiles to do that?
Seductive. Very charming.
Of course,
seductive.
those women.
There you go. Oh, yeah, that's my kind of book. I think I'll be reading it. It's not here, by the way. Just so you know, Robin and I typically will read the books when we have an interview, and maybe we booked you too late. It's possible, so we don't have it, and so I'm just asking questions about it. Let me ask this. This is an important question. Is there a website for the book?
There is thesirenofparis.com.
Okay.
It's available at Amazon.com as a Kindle version and also as an Audible book or an audiobook.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Through all your research as an historian and even into the religious aspect of it, why don't people ever learn? I mean, this has gone on since the beginning of time. How come people don't ever learn and just say, look, we don't want any more destruction. We will have our differences, but we shouldn't lose lives over it.
Well, because we're in love with the phrase, this time it will be different.
Yes.
And we believe that.
And isn't that
we
what
want to believe that?
And that's what the president said.
Not true.
Yeah, that's what the president said. This time, don't worry, we're just going to shoot across the bow. And I hope, you know what I hope? I hope that first of all, I hope that we can figure out a way to stop them from poisoning people.
Yeah.
Whoever's doing that, I hope we can figure out a way how to, you know, when there's a bad guy in the city and he's hurting somebody else in the city, we don't blow up the whole city. We get that bad guy out of there. So that's exactly the way we should do it with this, you know. But we are told exactly the same. Don't worry, this time it'll be pinpointed. We'll just get the few that we need.
Yeah.
We were told that in Iraq, too.
That's right.
Right?
In Afghanistan.
And we believe it because we want to believe it.
Is there something in your mind that is more, and I don't know if this is a bad word to use, but that's more romantic about World War II, that war, than for some reason the other wars that we talk about? Is there something romantic about it, or is it just the music that came from that era that makes me think that?
Well, I think that World War II is very romantic because in World War II, there's a very clear set lines between good and right. Who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy? We were the good guys. We were, coming to save the day.
Yeah.
And plus the music. And, I think that those are the elements that make it more romantic. When you peel back war and you get past the romance and past the branding and you get more into the day-to-day lives, talking to people who survive a war, all of that disappears. And you are faced with the fact that this person who survived the war, either as a veteran or as a civilian, feels like they have three lives. And their life during the war, every single day was a year, and by the time they got through the war, they were over 1,000 years old. That's how they feel.
I went to the website, thesirenofparis.com, and the book is described almost like a movie. The male lead, Robin, listen to this. Mark Tolbert, 20 years old, French-born, American-raised male art student.
Wow.
The female lead, Marie, name pending, legal review. Mm-hmm. She has a last name, right?
She does have a last name. The problem is she's really based upon a real figure.
That's what I wondered. So
yeah.
Okay. And anyway, it says here, 21 years old, French female nude art model.
There you go.
Turned Nazi collaborator.
Yeah.
Oh boy, you've outed me.
tough.
Okay.
And girlfriend of Mark. And she's a betrayer. So, oh man, you've just describing the two lead people has got us interested in this one. Well, at least it does me.
Mark Talbert has a problem. He really likes very attractive, charming women.
I got that same problem.
he gets involved with highly narcissistic alpha females, and he had a bad relationship in the United States, and then he goes over to Paris thinking he's going to do it differently this time, and he gets involved with somebody who really teaches him a lesson about love and war.
And this is a real lady, huh? Marie's real. I mean, she was really doing this?
Oh, yeah. Not just her, but there were several. There was several. In 1944, the German Gestapo put out an ad for 2,000 people to help round up the French resistance. They had over 6,000 applicants.
Oh, my.
Yeah. And the French resistance was decimated because of it.
What was the job description?
To entrap.
Oh,
people.
wow. So they were specifically looking for seductive women.
Yes.
Right. Oh, wow. You've hit on a good story. And so this is a real story. Was it kind of like getting the Dead Sea Scrolls, where you have to kind of fill in some gaps?
Yeah.
I mean, it was like it's real history, but you got to make a story out of it.
Well, what I did is I was able to find out so much of the time period. I didn't have to fill in that many gaps. I'm obviously making up the dialogue. I make up some of the scenes, but a lot of the story is very real. For instance, there's a part of the story when France falls, when Mark is running towards Saint Nazaire to try to get out of France, and he meets up with a traveling circus of elephants, lions, and tigers and bears that are caught up with refugees, and they get fired upon. That's real. That happened.
Oh, my gosh.
It's really strange to find these facts.
Wow, I can't wait. Hopefully it's on its way. David Leroy is our guest. We're just about out of time. The book is called The Siren of Paris. If you've been listening to the interview and you are like Rob and I, you're probably very intrigued by the story, by the factual story that it also tells, as well as the fictional story. More foul than just Paris to the Nazis. And I don't know, we keep pondering this whole idea as philosophers.
Yeah.
Amateur radio philosophers is our gig. Yours is real philosopher. But I mean, as just people just trying to figure out where we're ever going to go with this world, it is one of those perplexing things. Will we ever learn? I don't know. It's just one of those things I don't know.
We can hope for the best. It's like the sun. You hope for it and keep hoping for it.
Has your personal spirituality increased, or have you looked at things differently because of all the research you've done for this project?
Well, I think that what I learned from this project was that what you could lose most in a war is your soul. You can come through a war and you can completely lose contact with yourself and come out the other side wondering who in the world you are. Because the war drives you to such extremes to survive, and it'll put you under a lot of pressure. You're going to be fighting for food, water, as well as in a constant state of fear that has no love, faith, or hope in the air. So whatever light you have in your life is the only light that you've got inside your own heart. That's it. Because the rest of the world is very frightening. So I think that that's what I learned from this project, that's the cost of war, and it can be your soul.
And isn't it interesting how we escape to a book that the people in the book would like to escape to a book?
Yeah, right.
But that's our escape is not theirs. Well, great conversation, David. Thank you so much for being on the air with us today. Again, the website is the title of the book, The Siren of Paris. And the website, of course, thesirenofparis.com. David, and you mentioned, right, it's an audiobook, it's an ebook, it's every book. So go wherever books are sold and go get a copy of it. And David, thank you so much for being on the air with us today.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Great interview.
Have a good day.
You too. We'll take a break. Be right back.
Habitat for Humanity of Marion County is a ministry dedicated to improving lives by providing affordable and decent housing. Help them help others by visiting the Habitat for Humanity Ocala home store on Northwest 27th Avenue. To schedule a donation, give them a call and they'll come and pick it up. For more information, visit habitatocala.org. Habitat for Humanity of Marion County, building homes, building hope, building community.
look who just walked in the room. Joel Wiesner from What's Up Ocala. Hey, Joel, I'm looking for something to do this weekend. You got any ideas?
Absolutely. Check out our event calendar online at www.whatsupocala.com, and there is plenty of events there for you. Daily news updates to event reviews and magazine articles.
Really?
We've organized it all in one place online for you to cut through all of the hassle of finding something to do this weekend. We have a daily event calendar, a bi-monthly magazine, and we also do daily news articles.
All right, Joel, that's perfect. Thanks so much.
Yeah, whatsupocala.com.
You've got a garden and we've got a show for you called You've Got a Garden with your host, Master Gardener Carol Ann Baldwin. Carol Ann answers your questions about your flowers, your veggies, your grass, your trees, even questions about your bugs. And she's only on WOCA, so don't miss Carol Ann Baldwin and You've Got a Garden each Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on WOCA The Source.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
Here are today's headlines from the source, WOCA. The Marion County Sheriff's Office is reporting the arrest of a 33-year-old man they believe is the suspect who murdered 74-year-old Stanley Yassin of Ocklawaha nearly 2 weeks ago. The arrested man is identified as Isaac Dwayne Sheffield. Sheffield has been charged with first-degree murder. Detectives said the motive was robbery. On August 28th, 74-year-old Yassin was found stabbed to death inside his home. Marion County Sheriff's Office Detective Tony Watson said they wanted to question Sheffield after learning that he may have burglarized Yassin's home a few months earlier. Investigators could not find Sheffield, so they visited Sheffield's sister's home. There, they discovered evidence that would be significant to the case. 2 vehicles were there that officials believe Sheffield had been bleaching out to presumably remove bloodstains. The investigation also revealed Sheffield was inside Yassin's home on the day Yassin was brutally murdered. Another agency received information from Sheffield's family members who told deputies Sheffield was heading to Georgia. The report indicates that deputies from Toombs County, Georgia, caught and arrested Sheffield near Vidalia in southeast Georgia, where he awaits extradition. Video of a domestic dispute between George Zimmerman and his estranged wife may be crucial evidence in determining whether any charges are filed, according to a police report issued yesterday. The iPad captured video of Monday's dispute between George and Shelley Zimmerman, but he smashed the mobile device into pieces and it needs to be examined in a crime lab, according to Lake Mary police spokesman Zach Hudson. Shelley Zimmerman, who is 26 years old, called 911 on Monday, saying her estranged husband was threatening her and her father with a gun. She also said he punched her father in the nose. She later changed her story and decided against pressing charges. No gun was found, and officers said the former couple blamed each other for being the aggressor. When asked who could possibly be charged, Hudson said, quote, "As of right now, it could be either one or it could be no one. It depends on what the iPad has on it and what the footage shows," unquote. Shelley filed for divorce last week. She and her husband separated a month after he was acquitted July 13th in the fatal shooting of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. Several organized memorial ceremonies have been scheduled around Marion County to mark the 12th anniversary of the attacks on America of September 11th, 2001. The Village View Community Church is holding an event from noon until 1 p.m. called Cry Out America. It is described as a prayer gathering. The church is located at 8585 Southeast 147th Place in Summerfield. The Windsor of Ocala is showing the Honor Flight movie titled Honor Flight: One Last Mission at 2 p.m. That news release states the movie is accompanied by an art show. The location is 2650 Southeast 18th Avenue here in Ocala. The Frank DeLuca YMCA Family Center is honoring first responders with a gathering from 5:30 till 7 p.m. The center is at 3200 Southeast 17th Street in Ocala. Highlands Memorial Park in Ocala and the District Public Safety Station number 44 in the Villages are both displaying fields of flags with events scheduled for 6 p.m. at both locations. Highland Memorial Park is located at 1515 Northeast 3rd Street in Ocala, and District Public Safety Department Station 44 is at 3035 Morse Boulevard in the Villages. A Freedom Walk is scheduled beginning at Bellevue City Hall Park at 6 p.m. The park is at 5343 Southeast Apsher Boulevard in Bellevue, and the VFW Retirement Home in Fort McCoy is also conducting a memorial ceremony at their location at 6 p.m. And in Dunellen, 9/11 will be remembered at 7 p.m. at the Wall Rives Post number 58, located at 10730 US 41 in Dunellen. If you would like any of that information repeated, feel free to call WOCA at 732-8000. We'll be glad to repeat that slower for you over the phone. And those are the headlines from The Source, WOCA 96.3 FM and 1370 AM. Golden Rule Real Estate in Ocala reminds us veterans of our armed forces deserve the thanks and respect of all of us. These are the men and women who have offered their lives so ours will continue to flourish. Let's support our troops who serve to keep our nation strong. America's troops and veterans, real American heroes. This military tribute from Golden Rule Real Estate in Ocala. Join them at their charity auction September 13th for the troops and the Humane Society. Visit them online at goldenrealestate.com.
Natural fire retardant coating for homes. That story coming up on This Land of Ours.
Living in Florida, we have so much to celebrate. Awesome weather, top-notch universities and sports teams, a rich blend of cultures, and so much more. From fresh market tomatoes to watermelons, from snap beans to tangerines, Florida farmers grow an abundance of safe and affordable products that are prized around the world. So look for the Fresh from Florida label when you shop. Wholesome, delicious, nutritious. Fresh from Florida. Fresh to you.
Well, USDA researchers have developed an all-natural temporary fire retardant gel that could give protection to homes caught in a wildfire. Gary Glenn with the Agricultural Research Service says that the gel is a combination of common household products.
Sodium bentonite is a clay material. This material is used for many practical applications, one of them being kitty litter. By itself, sodium bentonite absorbs about 10 times its weight in water. And so the idea is that if you have a gel that absorbs water, that gel can then be applied to the surface of a structure, and the water is where you need it. But the problem with sodium bentonite is that as it starts to dry, it will shrink, it'll crack, and it will expose whatever's underneath it. So that's where the starch came into play. Starch is used in industrial applications, a very inexpensive binder that can be used for many industrial applications. So we combined the sodium bentonite with the starch, and we got a really surprising result. We got a very nice film, and that film kept the cracks from forming in the gel's surface.
In tests, the gel protects wood-based home siding for up to a half an hour, which Glenn says might be enough time for a home to be saved from a wildfire. The next step for this research is finding a convenient and practical way for it to be applied in a real-world setting.
If a homeowner were to do it, you would use a type of sprayer similar to a texture sprayer that they use for applying texture in a home, for instance.
Julie McPeak with Southeast AgNet.
London Engineering and Associates in Ocala takes this time to say thank you to all of the brave men and women in the armed forces who have served our country. Know that your dedication, selflessness, and courage are appreciated. Business owners, consider hiring veterans, our most dependable resource. May God bless America. This message is from London Engineering and Associates in Ocala. Call the London family and staff at 690-9551. That's 690-9551. Robin, the Marion County Literacy Council has once again nominated us to be candidates in the Kiss a Horse for Literacy campaign.
2 years ago, we sold paintings and won.
Last year, we tried to sell more paintings and lost to legendary boxer Dave Schlenker.
I think he was wrestling.
Wrestling, boxing, what's the difference, Robin?
Well, the difference is that this year we're busking for a bus.
Translated, that means we'll be street performing for a kiss.
A kiss with a horse.
So be sure to keep your radio tuned to WOCA The Source as we announce the different locations where you can catch us playing our accordion and mandolin on the streets.
All to help the Marion County Literacy Council teaching adults to learn how to read.
We made a website just for our campaign.
It's buskforabus.com. That's bus, B-U-S-K, then the number 4, then the letter A, and then bus with 2 S's.
Promotional consideration for the Marion County Literacy Council provided by your friends here at WOCA The Source.
96.3 FM, 1370 AM.
Today in Florida Ag News from the Southeast AgNet, well, it has been a wet season for many of our farmers, especially for those in the Panhandle. As James Marshall of Baker, Florida, says the weather has really affected the quality of his cotton crop.
Well, we're right there in northwest Florida at the tip of the Panhandle, and we got a mixed bag. We got some good cotton, and we got some cotton that's had 40 inches of rain on it since July the 1st. And yeah, it's not going to be like it was last year. We're going to probably be looking at 2/3 of a crop of what we've been gathering. Peanut crop looks fairly good, but cotton crop suffered more than anything.
Which is why James is hoping for some more sunny days in a late fall.
We'd replant some cotton because of deer damage and stuff like that, and it's not made completely yet. So we need some good weather to finish out the month of September with to really make that crop.
For more on how this season's wacky weather has affected our farmers here in the Southeast, log on to our website at southeastagnet.com.
It's that time of year again, and this time more growers are arming themselves with the power of the DuPont portfolio. It helps deliver the quality crops and top yields that vegetable and cucurbitate growers demand. It's all in there, whatever your needs. Like DuPont Coragen Insect Control, it has the power you need to fight crop-destroying pests like Lepidoptera and leaf miners. Power that lasts for a long time. DuPont Coragen not only provides this powerful protection, it's also very flexible when it comes to its application. Power and convenience. That's DuPont Coragen. Are you going to risk the quality of your crop? I don't think so. Arm yourself with the power of the portfolio. The DuPont portfolio of products. Only from your DuPont retailer. Always read and follow label directions.
Julie McPeak with Southeast AgNet.
Ocala's information station, 1370 W.